I hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
All right, Leo Antel across the pond. Emergency pod episode, 6, 7, or 8. We got a major fight coming up this weekend, a fight that a lot of boxing fans have been looking forward to. Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, the former pound-for-pound king, is going to be fighting a guy who's going up a weight division, Julio Cesar Martinez. How do you see that fight playing out?
It's a difficult one because every time we've had these relatively short notice replacements, it hasn't ended well. So I'm not sure how well that favors Chocolatito because he knows Estrada's style. And that fight was very anticipated for the fans, so I'm not too sure. I would love to back the Nicaraguan, but I really don't know. I think I'll have to ask you on that one. What do you think?
For me, it is borderline a 50-50 fight to a certain degree, but I'm going to lean on the experience of Chocolatito. When I look at Julio Cesar Martinez, he's explosive, he is aggressive, but his thing is he needs to load up. Yeah. And in that small microsecond that it takes to load up, Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez is going to be getting off combinations. Chocolatito does not load up. He throws combinations fluidly. He stays dead in a person's space and makes it to where you can't concentrate. And I think JCM's going to have his hands full moving up a weight division against a person as experienced as Chocolatito. So I think one of two things is going to happen. Either JCM is going to press the advantage with his youth and his cardio and try to get him out of there early, which is very unlikely because nobody to this date has yet to mow down Chocolatito like that, or Chocolatito slowly breaks him down and gets the stoppage late. It's going to be one of those two, I think. Okay. So either an early knockout for Martinez, or it's going to be a late stoppage by the ref for Chocolatito. And I think it's going to. I'm leaning more towards that ending.
And how did you think Chocolatito looked in his last fight?
I thought he looked good. And Julio Cesar Martinez looked good in his last fight too. I think it was McWilliams Arroyo was his last fight. He got knocked down, he got up, and he still got the stoppage. So the thing about Julio Cesar Martinez, he's not as defensively sound as Chocolatito is. Chocolatito is constantly with his gloves up high. Martinez, he loads up, but he drops his hands low. And when he drops his hands low, that's where Chocolatito is going to end up catching him. But nobody in that flyweight, super flyweight weight division has the kind of power, just brute power that JCM has. Like he's a brute. He's a brute, but his mechanics are a little bit rough.
So, could it not be similar to the Jesse Bam Rodriguez situation in the sense that you get that young gun coming through and beats the more experienced fighter?
Bam Rodriguez is a technical genius who is far ahead of his time. I wouldn't call JCM a technical genius at all. JCM is a power monster. He is phenomenally brute power, and he presses that advantage against his opponents. Bam Rodriguez is not a power guy as so much as he's a footwork style guy that sets him. He puts himself in positions to hit you where you can't see it. Julio Cesar Martinez will be right in front of you, throw a punch, you just can't stop, and he'll hit you through your glove, and it'll still knock you out. So JCM is an interesting proposition to fight a guy like Chocolatito. So it's fascinating. He's managed by Eddie Reynoso, and clearly Eddie Reynoso is confident enough in his guy to approve that fight. So they see something exploitable.
Well, he just approved Valdez versus Stevenson, so I don't know. Maybe he's not got good decision making. No, I'm joking. Yeah,
the Reynoso camp, they've got some interesting fights. They got the Canelo fight coming up. They got Martinez fighting Chocolatito, and then they got Valdez fighting Shakur. So we're about to see if Eddie Reynoso is going to earn that Trainer of the Year, Manager of the Year award, I guess. But
well, the WBC will give it to him regardless. But anyway, besides that, I was going to ask you, so do you think that Martinez is kind of bagging on raw power and Chocolatito will kind of just outskill him the whole night, outwork him? Or how do you see the fight actually going? I know you said that it will be a late stoppage and he'll win that fight, but what stylistically, how do you see that matchup working out? Because with Estrada and Chocolatito, we saw hundreds of punches being thrown around and both of them being relentless and not stopping. So, I mean, how do you think that fight goes? Is it a different fight to that?
Well, we'll see with Estrada and Chocolatito, because of both of their styles and skill sets, it's a battle of attrition when it comes to them two, because that's just how their styles play themselves out. Yeah. With JCM, I believe his goal early is going to be to try to get Chocolatito out of there in the early rounds if possible. I'm pretty sure Martinez and his handlers know that if they don't get the Chocolatito out of there early, that their chances of winning that fight get slimmer and slimmer the further the fight goes on. Because Chocolatito, by the time the 10th round comes, you've already been hit 1,000 times, and that wears you down. So I think JCM's going to come out hot and heavy to begin the fight and try within the first 6 rounds to do some critical damage on Chocolatito. And I believe Chocolatito's going to do what he does: stay cool as a cucumber, stay dead up in Julio Cesar Martinez's face, not back up when he gets hit, and pretty much do the battle of attrition thing and out-volume him until he eventually breaks him down. That's what I see idealistically in my mind. But like I said, Julio Cesar might end up knocking him out early and just pulling off another crazy upset in the flyweight division. But I don't think so. I think Chocolatito is going to rise to the occasion like he has done so many times in the last 5 to 7 years and pull off another win.
Okay. That's an interesting take. I don't know. He's a matchroom fighter, isn't he, Martinez?
I believe so. Don't quote me. I'm not sure.
Because I've heard Eddie Hearn backs him. I think he really does think that this could be an upset.
It might be. I mean, they were really smart with the Bam Rodriguez pick. I don't know if that was an Eddie Hearn pick. No, that was Top Rank if I'm not mistaken. But,
No, it wasn't Top Rank. It was a DAZN card.
Was that DAZN?
Yeah, it was the DAZN card.
Nice. Well, it might happen. I know a lot of the Mexico fans clearly are going for JCM, and I'm still backing Chocolatito. I'm also biased to Chocolatito, by the way. I've been a fan of his for years, so it's really hard when I really have studied a fighter in depth. And I've watched Julio Cesar Martinez in the last few years coming up the ranks, and he's always been one to watch. But I think he might be biting off more than he can chew going up a weight division against a veteran like Chocolatito. But I think it's great. These flyweights are setting an example to everyone to just go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that leads us nicely into what I thought was spectacular, which we were just talking about, Galal Yafai in this WBC international title fight. I thought it was such a good fight. I think he showed his amateur pedigree, Olympic pedigree, of course, and had this really nice style, but he also carries a lot of power. He carries an immense amount of power for an amateur because he was knocking people out in the amateurs. So I think his style really suits the pros, especially for his weight division. It's pure boxing, but with some serious power in there. I mean, some of the combinations and angles he was setting up for himself were just unbelievable to watch because you don't actually get that kind of skill on a lot of cards. You don't get that level of like just pure sheer boxing IQ, really. He was just pure boxing IQ. You could just see.
Oh yeah, he is impressive. He sparred hundreds of rounds with Sonny Edwards leading up into that fight to get ready for that debut, and I was very impressed. Very impressed. The main thing I noticed about Yafai is he's spiteful, and that's key. When you hit him, he gets mad, and he just, it reminds me of like Josh Taylor or Terrence Crawford, really. Like, that's a rare quality to have that spitefulness in a fighter. He's fearless, and he's aggressive, and he has a lot of power in his shots, and I look forward to seeing how he develops in that flyweight division. Obviously, his first fight was a 10-rounder, so a few more fights, he'll be ready for 12-round fights. He's ready to go. He's 31. The grown man, he's ready to go.
I mean, he got the 5th round stoppage of the Mexican, who I thought wouldn't go out. I just didn't. I thought he would be too tough, but clearly not. He got him out of there in his first fight, so I was highly impressed. And then another fight I thought was spectacular was Jordan Gill versus Kareem Guarfi. Jordan Gill was getting beat up. He's a great boxer, Jordan Gill, but in my opinion, Kareem Guarfi had his number towards the final rounds because he got DDT'd in the 7th.
Yes, why didn't the ref call a disqualification for that fight? That's a disqualification move right there?
100%, and the commentators were obviously prompting that the fight should be stopped, and he backed up into his corner because his legs were gone. He was so unsteady on the legs, and he pulled him out Derek Chisora style. They were with the same trainer at times, and he just went, "Bring it to me." He was taking a heavy barrage of punches, and out of nowhere, I swear to God, out of nowhere, bang! huge overhand right, drops him straight away. It was actually kind of, it was almost Canelo-esque.
It was something out of a movie. It was something out of a movie. It was amazing to see it. When you see stuff like that, you're like, this is why I love this sport. I mean, I didn't like the DDT,
phenomenal.
But the way he came back with that knockout, I was like, oh, this is a beautiful fight card. What is going on here?
His face after the DDT as well, he looked gone.
That's dangerous stuff.
He could have broken his neck.
Yeah, easily. But he came back and got the win, and as far as I know, no critical hospitalization issues afterwards. Great win.
No. There were some bad injuries. Like he had some bad. I saw the list of. Honestly, his next fight won't be for a while. I saw the list that he listed the injuries that he got. Sort of got from that fight. Not good. I won't read it, but yeah. If you look at his Instagram caption after the fight, what he wrote, he's in poor condition.
Goodness. What did you think of that Lawrence Okolie performance?
So when I was maybe 16, my dad took me, for my birthday, he took me to the Isaac Chamberlain fight. It's something I'll always remember because it was the most rubbish fight I've ever seen in my life. It was awful, right? And that fight, and what happened was it was just clinching the whole way through, and Okolie, off the top of my head, I don't remember, he got the knockdown of Isaac Chamberlain, but honestly, live in the O2 Centre, it was terrible. It was terrible. They all admit it. It was early days for both of them. They were both up and coming cruiserweights from rival areas in London. It was North London versus South London essentially, or East London, I think, Northeast, yeah, something like that. I think East London versus South London, and it was poor. And that fight had elements of it with Sislak. I didn't enjoy it at all. It was just all holding. It was messy. And I thought that Okolie training with Shane McGuigan, I thought he stopped smothering his work. As much as I think he's a great boxer and whatever, I don't think that's a fan-friendly style. And he needed to just go in there and get the win. But I don't know. I don't think you're getting
it was ugly to watch. It was ugly to watch. A win is a win on his end, I guess, but horrible fight to watch.
It was actually quite uncomfortable at times to watch. It was a bit awkward. He is a really awkward fighter. Like it was just the rhythm kept getting broken, so it just wasn't stylistically all wrong. And I think that is his style. I think he uses his attributes, his favoring attributes against his opponent. I mean, he's very long. He's got very long limbs, and he can hold, and he can use his shoulders, and all that sort of messy stuff that is we can't see the impact it's having on the opponent, but he knows it's going to wear his opponent down. So it is tactical, and I respect it, but it's not nice.
I think he should expand his repertoire beyond a 1-2. But hey, if the 1-2 clinch thing has gotten him this far,
it was a bit Deontay Wilder-like almost.
Yeah. A lot of Okolie fights are like that. But when that formula has been knocking people out left and right the way it does, why change the mechanics of it? But Sislak showed that there's some limitations to it if you can crowd his space and suffocate his power.
So do you think he beats Maris Bradis?
I don't. But Maris Bradis is getting a little bit old, so he might be able to press the youth issue against him. But
should I say Mario?
Mario, Super Mario Bradis. Oh Lord, why is he doing that? I don't know. But I think Mario Bradis.
He's got a mad amount of followers, like from.
How did he get 2 million followers on IG in 24 hours?
He's huge in his home country. Like, it's quite funny.
Clearly,
he's doing adverts for like Porsche and stuff. It's quite jokes.
I don't even think it's a bot generated because they're communicating on his page.
No. He's like huge. Is he Polish? No, that's Sislak.
I don't know what Bradis is, but he is definitely chasing Jake Paul down. And I do think Maris Bradis is too technically adept for Lawrence Okolie. But when you got power like Okolie, I mean, it's always a matter of one punch, and at 200 pounds, like you never know. But I would lean towards Bradis. Seeing as how Bradis took Alexander Usyk the whole distance.
Let's go into the fight tonight.
Oh yes, we have got So Leo Antel, we've got Jose Pedraza, the sniper, against Jose Ramirez. How do you see that fight playing out?
I got Jose Ramirez. I think he's hungry after that Josh Taylor loss. Got to remember, he was undefeated going into that fight. He tasted defeat for the first time, and I don't think he liked it at all. I think his style is very good for someone like Jose Pedraza. He's quite compact. He's very aggressive, and I think he's going to be a come-forward style. And I think Pedraza is very good, but he's lost quite a few fights now. What is it, 4 fights? So I think Jose Ramirez either gets the late stoppage or unanimous decision.
I think it's a great stylistic matchup to begin with. Pedraza has only lost against the top guys. Tank Davis, Lomachenko, and I forgot who the third one was. But he's only lost against the best of the best. But I think stylistically, the volume for Jose Ramirez just might be too much. Pedraza's fun to watch. Stylistically, he can switch orthodox to southpaw, and he moves real well. But ultimately, Jose Ramirez's work output, I think it's just going to be too much. I believe that Jose Ramirez and then we're going to have an interesting mix of styles because Jose Ramirez obviously moves very linear, back and forth. And Pedraza is capable of a lot of good angular lateral movement, but ultimately that application of constant pressure, it's a whole different beast when you get that guy in front of you and he's just constantly throwing punches the whole entire time. But I'm looking at Ramirez probably by stoppage or unanimous decision. I think unanimous decision. I think Pedraza will be able to maintain for at least the duration of the fight.
I agree.
And they both got something to prove. They both still want to be contenders at 140 pounds. Josh Taylor might be moving up to 147 because it looks like his frame can't handle 140 anymore. I don't see him staying in that division. And that's a whole different conversation. What is Josh Taylor going to do?
I think Josh Taylor's going to move up and he's not going to jump. He has the right at the moment. He became the WBO super champion, which means that if he does go up to 147 pounds, he can challenge Terence Crawford instantly. And it will be a mandatory fight. I don't think he'll do that. I just don't see how you could have a performance like that and say, do you know what? I want to go for one of the pound-for-pound top guys in Terence Crawford at a higher weight class than myself. I think it would be a big mistake on the matchmaking side of things. And look, he lost, but that doesn't change my views of him as a fighter. I still really respect him as a fighter, and I still think he is the business at 140 pounds. I think he had a bad night. I think that's part of it. Teddy Atlas, one person who definitely thinks he's very overrated, thought that what we were just talking about, Jose Ramirez, actually got shafted a bit when he got knocked down by the uppercut, in the 6th round against...
Absolutely. It was supposed to be a clean break. And Josh Taylor kind of took advantage of the situation. And
Queensbury rules, baby.
I'm not sure... The ref, it's a tricky one because they were in the corner and it looked like they were supposed to be doing a clean break and he just slipped the uppercut in there and the ref decided not to do anything about it. So one can argue that it was kind of a cheap shot, but if it wasn't called by the ref, no foul, I guess.
I don't know. No one was saying anything much until the loss against Jack Catterall. But, what's really interesting is we could have Ramirez versus Catterall. That fight was meant to happen. What was it? Maybe 1.5, 2 years ago? But then he stepped aside so that Josh Taylor could have the undisputed fight. I'd love to see Jack Catterall versus Jose Ramirez if he beats Pedraza, obviously. I think... Teddy Atlas, I was listening to him today. He thinks Josh Taylor actually got a gifted decision. I disagree. I watched that fight. It was one of the best fights I had seen in a long time. It was in April of 2021, I think. It was like one of the first fights of 2021.
Oh, that wasn't a gifted decision. No.
I don't think so either.
Josh Taylor beat up Ramirez. I watched that fight as it happened and watched the replay of that fight. And no, he styled on him. He styled on him.
I know,
he
it's a
lot
shame.
more...
Teddy's like my favorite analyst, but I didn't agree with that take.
Yeah, he definitely showed that he has more facets to his game. Ramirez, as good as he is, he does have his limitations stylistically. He is very linear with his movement. And Josh Taylor has obviously more skill on the inside fighting. And Josh Taylor's a southpaw, and he can do things with angles that Ramirez can't. And he used all of those tools to his advantage in that fight.
Yeah.
And I think if they were to rematch, it would be a similar result. Right.
I think Josh Taylor's better than Jose Ramirez. I just think Jack Catterall is clearly a high-level operator. People are forgetting that. I mean, why couldn't he very well beat a Jose Ramirez? It's just that he's never got the chance to fight an American style. Because, you know, his fights have really only been here in the UK, so he's had mainly domestic opponents. But he's had that American sparring. He's got that Philly shell defense, which I think is so interesting for a fighter like himself, being from Lancashire.
For a southpaw.
For a southpaw, but also for someone from, you know, where he's from, you know. From up north in the UK. That's just not a style that they teach, but clearly his top level sparring has taught him, you know, a few tricks like that. You know, with Mayweather, for example, he was slippery against Josh Taylor. I think he wasn't actually absorbing any of the shots really, because he was rolling them off and, you know, slipping and sliding. I think he did really well in that fight.
To me, I saw Josh Taylor get clinically picked apart. That's what I saw in that fight. And it was a spectacle to behold as it was unfolding, because Catterall had a game plan. He stuck to the game plan. Josh Taylor looked flat. He fought uninspired. I don't know what was going on with Ben Davison in the corner. I saw him try to hype the crowd up for a minute. I don't even know. I don't know. Boxer-sized Ben fumbled the ball in the corner with the tactics there. They weren't trying to switch up their methodology midway through the fight. I don't know. It was just a disaster of a fight.
I think that's unfair. I think that's unfair, calling him boxer-sized Ben. You know, I think... No, because everyone's laying into him now. I think, you know, feel bad for him. Like, he's a good trainer. I stick by it. I think he's a good trainer. He's so young, and he's achieved so much so quickly. So I have a huge respect for him. Look, it is what it is, but... I think that fight, in a weird sort of way, was like the 140 version of Tyson Fury versus Vladimir Klitschko. In the sense, but Tyson Fury got the decision. It wasn't pretty to watch. You saw the champion just get outboxed, picked apart, and it was boring at points. But yeah, I mean, Jack Catterall was brilliant, and in the same way that Tyson Fury was brilliant against Klitschko. Probably a bad comparison because of how the stark contrast between their weights and whatever, but I think people will get what I'm saying here in the sense that, you know, it was just a lot of holding and awkward to watch at times. And
it was, I mean, the ref didn't call the holding, which I think the ref probably should have made some kind of earlier point deduction for the holding, but that holding is what saved Jack, because he was just muffling JT's inside game. And you take away Josh Taylor's inside game, I mean, that's a very huge component for his offense.
Yeah. No, 100%.
And he was smart enough to suffocate it.
Should we wrap it up there?
Yeah.
All right.
Good right there, yeah.
This has been Across the Pond, episode 7?
I think so. I think we're on episode 7. Something. It's either 7 or 8, one of those.
We'll call it 7. All right. Peace.